So thanks for taking the time before you guys head out. You can just give me a short introduction and
Yeah, no worries. Yeah.
You can sort of so tell me a little bit about how you got involved with NEM. Like, how did you hear about it?
Yeah. So I heard about Bitcoin first time in 2011. I disregarded it. I was like, I don't want to waste any time or money on something that's virtual currency or whatever. So, and 2 years later, there was like the price surge in 2013, and I was like, what? They still haven't hacked it, or? So I got really interested, started looking into the technology, learn about blockchain, and gradually I started seeing like real-world use cases and also beyond financial technology and things like that. So one of the things I really love Bitcoin, but I was like, okay, like the mining, is that really like the best way to do it, like proof of work and everything? So I was looking around a little bit, looking at some other technologies, and that's how I stumbled upon them in the early days. And I noticed that there were some things. There was a good vibe in an M team, you know. So early on, you could notice there were a lot of intelligent people hanging around, and you felt that everybody had that. There was this energy, you know. So basically, that kept me around, and gradually I saw it evolve into something that became, because initially NEM was going to clone NXT, you know, and I wasn't really interested in that, but then they decided, okay, let's build from scratch, and you could see everybody there was this momentum, you know, in the project, and basically it kept me going and kept me interested in the project, and gradually it became more and more of a legitimate blockchain, and I gradually got more and more involved, and until the point that I was asked by Lan Wang to become the NEM, the regional head for NEM in Europe. And since July or something, I'm preparing to do the expansion in Europe. I'm also a council member and a founding member of the NEM Foundation. And it's, I think the vibes are good. We're working hard behind the scenes. Not much focused on marketing, more focused on developing and providing a good base and tools for developers to use our blockchain in an efficient and effective way for real world use cases, rather than some lesser lesser use cases or whatever. So it's interesting to be part of something that's developing into what will become the real blockchain revolution, I think.
Yeah. What do you think a main differentiating factor is between Ethereum and NEM?
Okay, so you know, Ethereum is I think Ethereum came about when they realized that a lot of things started to become built on top of Bitcoin. You know, you had colored coins on Bitcoin, you had multi-signature on Bitcoin. Everything was like on the most of it was dealt with on the client side, and then probably I suppose then they came they started realizing blockchain had so much more potential, and then obviously the relationship with smart contracts, and I really like the idea of Ethereum, obviously, and it was so smart contracts are I think conceptually a very good idea, but in practice, obviously it's really complicated because you really have to think about all the possible scenarios, and obviously we have seen it can go wrong, and sorry, and that's where NEM is differentiating itself a little bit. So we don't want to do smart contracts on chain. We want to pull most of the business logic outside of the blockchain application, and then use what we call smart assets rather than smart contracts. So most of what we have on NEM is basically some tools on the protocol level, like multi-signature. We have namespaces, mosaics, which are our tokens,
right.
And these are all configurable, you can adapt some of these parameters and whatever. Like multi-signature is a you can adapt the multi-signature contract, obviously based on the parameters that are pre-configured, so that it's still there's no one central party that can have control over it. But we believe that by pulling out some of the business logic to the client or to the server side, using these building tools on the blockchain in a creative way, that you can build your blockchain application that basically has like most of the functionality that's possible with Ethereum or some other blockchain, but it's more maintainable and easier to implement.
So, what's the transaction throughput that you can get?
Okay, so in a public chain, we're currently capped at it's an artificial cap of 2 transactions a second. Basically, because we at this time we don't need more. We still don't have like that amount of throughput.
So you said 2?
Yes, two per second. Yeah, but that's an artificial cap. So it can be a lot higher. But the newer version, which is so currently our developers are developing the second iteration of the NEM blockchain technology in C++, and that has been tested in a private chain setup to over 4,000 transactions a second.
But this is private chain.
That's in a private setup, obviously, because in a distributed system like geographically dispersed system, you won't be able to do a completely cryptographic security on 4,000 transactions a second in like with 500 or 1,000 nodes. That's due to the network latency, it's not possible.
So right now it's 2, which is slower than Bitcoin and Ether, right?
Yeah. But it's an artificial cap, so we can raise the cap as we go along. To be honest, I don't know the exact like the real maximum throughput it can handle, but now it's just basically it started in like our blockchain was conceived in March 2015, and they said like, okay, let's just put a cap of 2 transactions a second, and it's very stable. It's and as long as we don't have the scalability issues, there's no reason to increase it. But it can be increased.
We'll have to increase it though, right?
Sorry?
We'll have to increase transaction throughput.
Yeah, they'll have to increase it, but I'm not involved in that kind of technical discussion. I'm not part of the core developer team, but they have already said that they can increase it quite easily. But I don't know the exact maximum amount of transactions a second the network can handle.
Yeah, from both an investor side and from an entrepreneur side, like having the ability to increase transactions per second is kind of critical to this thing. What has been the response? Like, what's the roadmap for that?
The roadmap for the transaction throughput.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a specific roadmap for the public chain. For the private chain, obviously they have already tested it for the new version over 4,000 transactions a second. I'm not aware of the transaction throughput the new version would have in the public chain, but obviously it would be way higher, because I believe the current version in private chain setup is doing less than 1,000 transactions a second. So we will be able to handle a much higher transaction throughput once the new version is released, which is expected to be released somewhere in 2018.
Somewhere in 2018.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any what kind of companies are developing on them right now?
Well, we see a very wide range of interested parties that are developing on NEM technology in general. Then, so basically, we have like some ICOs that are working with NEM, or at least want to work with NEM. We have Banquera that wants to do some things with NEM. We have also the COMSA. I don't know if you heard about COMSA.
I heard
ICO.
about Banquera actually.
Sorry?
I heard about Banquera.
Okay, yeah.
But I totally passed because there was some really shady stuff with their team.
Shady stuff with their team?
Yeah, like they listed Vitalik as as an advisor.
Okay, I'm not aware of that because when I looked at their team, there was no Vitalik in there.
Bankera, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally weird. At least in my memory, I remember seeing that.
Okay. Well, I looked at their website. I never saw Vitalik in there. So, anyway.
Anyway.
Okay,
But
there's also Comsa, which is basically a platform for also using like ICOs, but also deploying applications on a hybrid chain with private and public chain on NEM technology. There's also some interoperability with Ethereum and things like that. So that's an interesting project we have going on.
Yeah.
And there's also a couple things in the pipeline, and it's pretty diverse.
What's the main sort of barrier to entry that you see? Like in the States, most people don't know about NEM, so what's the...
Yeah, I think we haven't been really successful on the marketing aspect, mainly focused on the technology part. And I think one of the reasons is because NEM allows to, contrary to some other blockchain projects, we are not focused on one specific use case or at least one a market or whatever. So we have a pretty broad spectrum of use cases. Also, we have the public chain and the private chain setup, which is so basically there's a very broad spectrum of what you can do with our technology, and that makes it more difficult to market in a specific direction. So one of the things we're thinking about is whether we may need to try and focus a little bit on to find a niche market for NEM or whatever. But we're not. I have not yet figured out whether it's a good thing to do or not. But one of the entry barriers, obviously, is that you need to. How should I say? We notice that once people really investigate in the technology, once they really get into what NEM is all about, that they become really passionate about it. But due to some reason, we still have an entry barrier to get people beyond that point, and so we're working on that, providing better information. We launched our new website a couple months ago, which was a very good step in the right direction, I guess. So we're continuously working to make it more easy for people to understand them and what it's all about. And
yeah, what I'd like to do is have you guys Skype in to our co-working space so we can ask you like more technical questions.
Oh yeah, sure. We would be happy to assist you on that.
Cool. Well, I know that you're running out the door. Is there anything else you wanted to tell me about?
I'll probably go soon.
Oh,
so
all right.
I wanted to say bye just in case I don't.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was good to see you. Let me just wrap this up and we'll chat.
All right.
Yeah? Okay.
I'll be downstairs by Derek. Or
Okay. Cheers, Luke. Anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, not necessarily. There's not really something that's popping up into my mind that I need to talk about to you, but it was great talking to you.
Yes, good to meet you.
And whenever you have
Cheers.
any questions or feedback, always open to feedback too regarding them. Feel free to contact me, and
Great. Will do.
we'll keep in
Thank
touch.
you.
Thanks for the interview.